Good morning and thank you for joining us on Africa This Morning. It is the 4th of March 2014. I'm Beryl Ooro. Let's start the bulletin with a look at the top stories.
KCSE results. Alliance Boys High School emerges tops as Education Cabinet Secretary notes a slight improvement in performance since last year. Oscar Pistorius case. Star Olympian faces a possible life sentence as he argues that he shot his lover through a locked toilet door, believing that she was an intruder. Bomb blast in Nigeria. Twin bomb blasts in Maiduguri kill at least 46 people on a Saturday evening.
The Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination results for 2013 were released, with this year's performance being 27.46%, slightly below the results of 2012, which stood at 28.36%. According to the Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, last year's general election, which forced the Education Ministry to interfere with the learning schedule for at least 2 weeks to accommodate the voting exercise, could have affected many candidates as well as the teachers' nationwide strike, which lasted more than 2 weeks. Ebru Africa's news reporter Agnes Gakunga covered the story.
This was the mood in various schools that performed well in last year's secondary national examination. It was dance and jubilation at Alliance High School. Emerging #1 nationally has not been easy for them. They say this calls for hard work, discipline and determination. Now the school is in a celebratory mood after emerging the best in last year's KCSE exam. It has also produced the best student nationally.
Amen!
Both teachers and students could not hide their joy. The joy of working hard for 4 years filled the air. Learning exercise was disrupted for the better part of the day to give these students a chance to celebrate their good performance. Though the school is well known for its good performance in national examinations, this year's results emerged as the best the school has ever recorded in many years.
The number of A's registered in Alliance is the highest number of A's ever registered in any school in this country. Our record, which was the national record since 2010, was 108. That was the highest number of A's recorded in a school. But this year we have broken all the odds and broken all the records, and the highest number of A's, or the number of A's we have recorded this year, is 166.
King Wanderi was the happiest candidate. He was able to defeat 446,695 candidates to be ranked #1 nationally. He attributes his good performance to hard work, discipline and determination.
Shocked, at the same time I expected some of it, but not to top the country. I honestly didn't expect that to be to that height.
All top 10 schools nationally include Alliance High School, Moi High School Kabarak, Precious Blood Riruta, Kapsabet Boys, Maseno School, Molo Academy, Strathmore School, Chavakali High School, Maryhill Girls High School and Kenya High School. During the release of the KCSE results, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi was quick to point out that there has been an increase in the number of girls sitting for national examinations compared to the number of boys. He said that there is need to put interventions to ensure that the boy child is not endangered. Over 3,000 cases of irregularities during examinations were reported in 2013. Kaimenyi has said that an act will be enacted and it will impose a 3-year ban to all those caught cheating during national examination.
The majority of candidates with a mean grade below C+, and those even with C+ and above, who will not be absolved in our universities or institutions, both private and public, can be absolved in many middle level colleges. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, as long as we are prepared to broaden our horizons in examining what is available for our children in our institutions.
In 2013, a total of 446,696 candidates sat for the examination in 7,608 examination centers, which was an increase of 10,347 candidates, or 2.3%, when compared to 436,349 candidates who sat for the KCSE examination in 6,968 examination centers in 2012. And just the case in January this year, when the ministry was announcing the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education results, once again the Ministry of Education has insisted the need for parents and students to take advantage of technical institutions available in various parts of the country. Agnes Gakunga, Ebru Africa News, Mitihani House in Nairobi.
The Committee on the Restoration of the Westgate Mall urged the government to compensate the affected persons as recommended in the final report, as well as ensuring that criminal investigations are concluded immediately to allow time for availability of funds that will facilitate the restoration process.
Speaking at the handing over meeting, the Nairobi County Governor Evans Kidero and the chair of the committee said that the government should step up security measures and provide visible presence in public facilities to restore confidence, and as well give information on threats of attack to directors or managers of shopping malls and public facilities as soon as a threat is identified.
That the government should step up security measures and have visible presence in public facilities to restore confidence. For the Inspector General of Police to develop a suitable curriculum for training in emergency and security response for public institutions, shopping malls, and public crowded places.
According to the recommendations, the government was urged to assist the affected business owners in the top-up of insurance policy where there was none, as well as ensuring investigations are concluded immediately regarding the illegal insurance policy covering them all.
For the government to ensure that Westgate business and shopping mall are restored immediately, and for the government to assist in top-up where there was no insurance for necessary restoration as recommended by the Parliamentary Joint Committee and this committee. In view of the illegal and unauthorized manipulation and alteration of the insurance policy covering the shopping mall on the 23rd September 2013 by the Kenya Commercial Bank, the government should ensure either the investigations are concluded immediately or other matters are resolved amicably within 7 days of this report to allow there to be funds available to commence restoration.
The Cabinet Secretary for East African Affairs, Commerce and Tourism, Phyllis Kandie, receiving the report, confirmed should consult widely within government for implementations.
Thank you very much.
The whirling storm which had engulfed the ODM party since last week during the party election period is far from over. The party leader Raila Odinga says a task force will be formed to investigate the unruly behavior that led to the halting of the party elections.
Order, 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 order!
Barely a week after the much-awaited ODM party elections were cancelled, members of the party, together with their party leader, have come out to strongly condemn the actions. The party leader Raila Odinga assured the party's supporters that the party will come out stronger than it has ever been.
We want to assure our supporters, wherever they are all over the country, ODM is alive and kicking, and ODM will emerge stronger than ever before. Yes. ODM will continue to shine.
Speaking at the Orange House today, Raila said he will ensure that perpetrators of the heinous act will be brought to book.
A task force is going to be set up of 5 officials or experts, neutral, in order to carry out proper investigations so that the party knows exactly what and who was responsible.
We want the register brought here before election is carried on.
Raila also said a transitional team of 6 will be formed to reorganize and stabilize the party. 3 members will be drawn from each of the disputing sides and will work with the party leader.
Go and sit down.
Nominated Member of Parliament Isaac Mwaura also supported the resolutions. He said enemies of democracy were out to destroy the party, but was confident that they will come out of the murky waters clean.
But what I want to say, and I want to insist, that this is a win for democracy. Democracy calls for tolerance. Democracy calls for sobriety. Democracy calls for people to be united to a cause. And ODM, which stands for social democracy, must be seen to be above board. All our operations must be beyond reproach, like Caesar's wife.
The Orange Democratic Movement Party elections might have been called off, but it's clearly not over for them. Patience is what the party leader and members of the ODM party are calling for, and here is where the waiting begins for the new election date. For Ebru Africa TV, I am Annette Akisa at the Orange House, Nairobi.
And to North Africa, the newly appointed Egyptian Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab has called for a halt to the protests that have marred Egypt in recent times. The premier challenged Egyptians to concentrate more on rebuilding their country after years of unrest.
Barely a week after being named Egypt's Prime Minister, Ibrahim Mahlab seems to have taken over the reins. The premier made it clear that stabilizing the country's security and economy is part of his main agenda for the ailing country. He called upon the Egyptians to work together in upholding peace in the country.
I call upon you with all my heart to stop any kind of sittings, protests and strikes. Let us start building the country. Let us start building the country. I completely understand the pressures of the country and the needs of living. I realize that there are some issues that requires an immediate response with a new vision and in an expeditious manner.
Mahlab, who laid out his government's plan in his first news conference in Cairo, promised to ensure the country goes back to normalcy. He assured Egyptians of a victorious win to the battle against terrorism, not only for them, but for the entire region.
The battle Egypt is facing against the powers of evil and terrorism is not only in defense of Egyptian interests and its security. It is also a battle we are fighting on behalf of the entire region. We will be victorious in this battle, God willing.
Mahlab took over from former Prime Minister Hazem El-Bablawi, who surprisingly resigned last week after being in office for only 7 months. The sudden resignation has not been explained, but there has been widespread speculation that it was related to increasing labor protests and strikes.
Twin bomb blasts in the northeast Nigerian city of Maiduguri killed at least 46 people on Saturday evening, witnesses and officials said, in a further setback to President Goodluck Jonathan's military campaign in search for peace in the border areas.
In a separate incident around 50 kilometers away, dozens of gunmen have razed a farming village, shooting dead another 39. Residents of Maiduguri on Sunday gathered on site to assess the damage and clean up the wreckage.
A bomb exploded, and when we came out to help, another one exploded and several people died. About 20 minutes later, we picked up to 50 corpses. 80 people were sent to Umaru Shehu General Hospital. Enough is enough. We are ready to take up whatever it takes in order to protect ourselves. Since we have called up the security people and they are unwilling to help us, enough is enough.
The attacks will heap pressure on Jonathan, whose intensified military push to end the sect Boko Haram's 4.5-year-old insurgency has been running for almost a year. While the bloodshed has not diminished, the army had at least some success in confining it to remote rural areas in recent months. Boko Haram, which has killed thousands, becomes the biggest threat to security in Africa's top oil producer, increasingly targeting the civilian population. Western governments are concerned about Nigerian groups such as Boko Haram linking up with Al-Qaeda-linked cells in other countries in the Sahel region such as Mali, where France sent troops a year ago to oust militants who had seized control.
In the Libyan capital, Tripoli, protesters decided to storm parliament yesterday to demand the dissolution of the General National Congress, shooting and wounding 2 lawmakers and beating others. Many Libyans blamed the GNC and the government for the chaos that persists 3 years after Muammar Gaddafi's overthrow.
I don't believe in what it called the National Council at all. The National Council expired since February 7th, and all of its decisions are inappropriate.
In Sunday's attack on Parliament, dozens of protesters burst into the building, assaulting and wounding several lawmakers, GNC spokesman Omar Hamadan told Al Nabar television. Protesters shot and wounded 2 lawmakers when they tried to leave the building, Assembly member Nazir Kawan reported. Halima Al-Walfali, a deputy from Benghazi, said some of the young protesters had carried knives. GNC members agreed to hold elections later this year after a public outcry over their attempt to extend the mandate of the Transitional Assembly, which expired on February the 7th. Libya's weak government and army are struggling to control the well-armed former anti-Gaddafi rebels and militia. Star Olympian Oscar Pistorius faces a possible life sentence when he goes on trial, accused of murdering his girlfriend in a Valentine's Day shooting that shocked the world. Pistorius is expected to argue he shot his 29-year-old girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, through a locked toilet door at his home, believing she was an intruder.
Preparing to face the courts and the cameras once again. Oscar Pistorius goes on trial on Monday, accused of murdering his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day last year. The double amputee claims he shot her by accident, firing at her through the toilet door because he believed she was an intruder. But prosecutors accused Pistorius of premeditated murder, claiming neighbours heard arguing earlier in the night and the sounds of a woman screaming.
There's very limited circumstances where someone can actually take preemptive action and shoot somebody behind a closed door when they can't identify the nature and the seriousness of the threat.
Without eyewitness accounts, ballistic and forensic evidence will be key. And so too will Pistorius' own testimony on the stand.
The crunch will be whether he'll be able to give a version that's reasonably possibly true within the confines of whatever has been proven by the state.
Without a jury to influence, the court has allowed parts of the trial to be televised live, to the delight of the world's media.
We're absolutely thrilled. This is a seminal judgment. It's precedent-setting. It's a victory for open justice. We couldn't be happier.
The trial has been set down for 3 weeks, but it's likely to last longer as teams of lawyers weigh in. If Pistorius is convicted of culpable homicide, unintentionally killing his girlfriend, he could walk away with a suspended sentence. But if he's found guilty of murder, he faces 25 years behind bars.
Bangladesh's tanneries produce leather for fashion brands around the world, but the environmental cost of global demand for cheap shoes is on full display in Dhaka, where industry's toxic wastes are being disposed into the city's main river and causing pollution and leading to deteriorating health conditions for the workers.
Inside this drum is a cocktail of toxic chemicals used to turn raw hides into soft leather. This is one of hundreds of tanneries in the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka, exporting leather for shoes to be sold mostly in the West, Japan and China. But on the tannery floor, workers given minimal protective gear suffer to earn their living.
My arms and legs feel itchy all the time. The skin around my nails go bad, my hair falls out. My body has developed an allergy. Those who have allergies are even more affected by all this.
A study has shown 90% of workers in the tannery industry have diseases, ranging from asthma to cancer, due to chemical exposure. And residents are also exposed. 22 million litres of toxic waste are dumped into the city's main river every day. And in the tannery district, the river is now biologically dead.
The ways the tannery industries are operating here in Bangladesh would perhaps suggest that it is a lawless state. The reasons could be political, that the political government doesn't want to upset the business community. An additional factor could be some underhand dealing.
This shoe manufacturer adheres to environmental standards, making footwear for major Western brands, Macy's and Jones Bootmaker. Its owner says ensuring a better safety record is in the country's best interests.
We cannot go on with the race to the bottom, which is where you work with people who don't care anything about but the price. Even at that level, we are seeing much more higher levels of consciousness and awareness in terms of environmental compliance. So I think it's in the interest of Bangladesh long term for the leather industry to attract the kind of buyers who will work with us to improve the working standards and the environmental standards of our production.
But so far, rampant pollution and terrible working conditions aren't deterring foreign buyers. Business is booming, and leather is Bangladesh's fastest growing export, worth around $500 million a year. With growth in demand for cheap footwear showing no sign of slowing down, the industry is facing little pressure to ease its ecological footprint.
And with that, we come to the end of the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us shortly as we take a look at the leading stories on the social media platform.